Hey guys, it's SF and welcome to week number 4 on this Monster Strike podcast. And I hope you guys are liking it so far. I hope to get some new changes, talk a little bit more, talk a little more fluent because I'm not the best talker, but I do try to do my best on every single podcast as well. So let's start with the NA scene. And the biggest news, one of the biggest news actually, is the 4.0 version. It has been announced. It'll be out on June 16th after the maintenance around 11 a.m. Eastern time, I think. And there are some big changes. There are a lot of really nice changes that really addresses people's concerns a bit. First of all, is the main one is the able berries. Able berries will drop more and more often. So how the new able berry system will work is that, for one thing, you'll get a no continue bonus. That's a given. There will be, when you co-op, you'll have a chance of getting it on a damage drop at maximum of the number of people that you play with. So if you play with 3 other friends, then you get a maximum of 3 more fruits. But it's not 100% drop. So even if you have 3 people, then you might get like 1 or 2 or even 0. It really depends on the luck, on your luck, and of course hits often make those damage drops appear. And if you see a chest, that's an automatic fruit. And it's also you have to know that everybody's damage chests are different in terms of when they come up. So if player 1 gets a damage chest, player 2 might not even get it. So there is some differences there. But you can have a maximum. If you play with 4 people, then you have invade, clear drop, no continue drop, and then 3 player co-op. So you have a maximum of 6. Although chances of getting 6 in one run is not that high, so you might be leaning to like 3 or 4 per run, but it's still better than the 1 or 2 that you had before. And of course, chances of the gold actually not dropping, it hasn't increased. It's just that you have more chances of getting a gold drop. The percentages didn't change, and there's no time dungeon until later on, so there's no time speed time, because that dungeon drops better, has a higher rate of dropping a gold and silver. There's hardly any chance of you getting a brown one. I did get one like 2 days ago, but that was really unlucky for me. But yeah, so that's one of the main changes. Another main change is the event schedule. So when you go to the events page, when you're selecting the events dungeon, there's on the top right, there is a tab that says event schedule, and then you see a list of events that are coming up in about a day or 2 days time. Then you can check a box where it will give you a push notification even if you're not actually on. Even though Monster Strike is not even opened, then it'll give you a push notification that will tell you when this specific event dungeon is coming up. It does for extremes as well as savage as well, and you can set alarms and stuff. But the main problem I had with that is that it doesn't set your alarm like 10 minutes before or like 20 minutes before. It shows right when it starts. So maybe you don't have time to prepare if you're actually like farming for max luck. I do kind of want like a 10 minute buffer. So if it's so I have like 10 minutes to set up my box to like clear some space and stuff like that, or to get ready, like go to the washroom for like a 2-hour farming marathon or something like that. But either way, you can see what's coming up next. It's easier to access, and then later on, once you get to like 4.1, the UI gets better, showing like what Ascension materials that they're for and stuff like that. So it's a really nice improvement, because I know a lot of people don't look at the in-game schedule even though it's there for you or stuff like that. And the event schedule, the new one on 4.0, shows you the time of your time zone, just like the in-game schedule right now on the speech bubble thing. But people don't look at it, or people even don't scroll for it. And a lot of people don't know about it. But so that's why the new schedule is a lot better. And of course, the push notifications is also good as well. And a third big change is the exchange. So what this does is you exchange monsters that you don't need for Merlings, Morlings, or Turtles. Now there are some like special techniques or like ways to exchange that makes it a lot more efficient that I'll probably show you once the version actually comes out. But like you can fuse like 5 next P's into making a duplice, the next tier. I don't really know how to say their names, but that's one of the ways you can do for the exchange. So let's say if you have 5 dark next P's, but you want to have a light, but you want to fuse it to a light monster. So what you do is fuse the 5 together for luck 5, and then exchange it for a light turtle of the next tier, and it'll give you more experience. I don't really know the exact math. Maybe it's worse math, but it does save you space in your box, and as well as probably give you more experience, in my opinion. Morlings is a different story. Morlings really depends on what Morlings that you actually need at that time. But I usually fuse the more lives, the lowest one, and then once you get 10 of those together, when you make a luck 10, you can fuse it for Morling X of 1. So 1 Morling X of either attack, speed, or HP. And then HP, because the normal Morling in terms of HP, it has 25. And then if you fuse 10 in them, like if you make a luck 10, then it's 250 like total if you add them all together. And then of course it doesn't go to the plus 250 because the more life plus, the max plus is not 250, but that's the same base plus as a Morling X, more life X. So it saves room, and it also gives you a higher threshold because the X version goes to plus 390. Or you can just use that 250, use that 10 luck more life to have an attack Morling X or a speed Morling X. So that's one cool thing that you can do. But I'll introduce some other ways of actually exchanging. It also gives some merits to people that are farming Luxindras to help out, because once you get to 70 luck, you can exchange for either 8 Morling X's or 5 max P's of whatever color you want. And that kind of gives initiatives for people with max luck monsters to help out beginners with their red Drake farming. Although that's only if you have the time or something, but as long as the beginners use the stamina, I think it's an initiative for veterans to help them out with max luck and stuff like that. Because 70 is not that hard. You can probably farm it in one day at least once, but that depends on how much farming that you actually do, and the drop rates and stuff also depends as well. But there is some initiative for you to help out beginners, or you can just fuse your Hatcher Lux 70s for those Morlings or Turtles as well, so it doesn't go to waste. Because I know a lot of people that just roll and then have like a luck 90 for no reason, just because they all got like 4 stars. But those 4 stars are useful in my opinion. There are some niche uses, but if they don't really want them, then just go exchange them for like max P's or max P's and Morling X's. So I think those are the 3 main changes. There might be some that I'm not remembering correctly, but those are the main ones that I remember from JP that were really, really good. And in future, there's right now Japan's in 4.3. There's not much different, just UI changes. There's no like new functions or anything. So hopefully once Japan hits 5.0, then we can all be excited for something really, really new. But 4.3 is where Japan's at, and the only main difference is that there's time dungeons for the able berries, which are really, really good for you to have a good chance of dropping gold. But it doesn't mean that you'll get a gold every single time when you do the time dungeons, just saying. but gives you a better chance, and I did grab some gold ones from those dungeons as well. Next on the topic is, of course, the epic heroes. I did make a commentary video, so hope you guys can watch it or listen to it, and then hopefully learn something new about those monsters and their uses. For me, the Hatcher itself is really good. There is a good max out monster that you can make in Marie Antoinette, and then of course there's Nero, where he's the ascent material for Hikari and Nanami. But don't expect, and I'll say this once, don't expect Nanami and Hikari Ascension to be up anywhere in the near future. It's still months ahead, in my opinion. Although I'm not 100% sure, but do not expect them to come out anytime near in like the next 2 or 3 months. Because just because the Ascent materials are here doesn't mean that their Ascensions will be here. So that's something that I just want to say out loud, and for you to just wait and wait and wait. But in terms of the Hatcher monsters, Gilgamesh is good for Kushinada. That's probably his only big use. There is one where there's only no warps. There are some no warp only dungeons, but it doesn't really make use of his Demi-Hume Slayer. So if you really need something, if you have other no warp monsters, then there's no point of actually using him. You can, like, Izanami can outclass him in terms of just no warp, as well as like other monsters like Jack or something like that. But so there is some difference. There's probably just the only use for him is Kushinada and Kushilin. Kushilin, it's a Tsukuyomi monster. In terms of impossible, that's the only use that you have. You can probably use him in Yamato Takeru, but that's just, you just want to bring her just to bring her, in my opinion. Kind of like Dear Lota. You don't need Dear Lota to actually beat Yamato Takeru, but Dear Lota does help a bit, whereas Kushilin doesn't really help a bit. So Kushilin's it's better later on. It has some future potential in terms of extreme dungeons, not really for impossible dungeons. But her no gravity bear and her all no strike shot is very powerful. Not only does it not affect her in terms of damage walls, mines, and warps, it also speeds her up and powers her up as well. So it's really powerful. She's the only one with future potential, in my opinion, because Gilgamesh only has Kushinada in terms of his viable dungeons, or dungeons he's really good at. And Siegfried, which I'm going to talk later, like next, is that one-way lasers are not that powerful, and he doesn't even have a powerful one-way laser. He's not a blast type one-way laser, so a 24k one-way laser is not that good, especially when you have Athos with the lock-on one-way laser with 24k. That's crazy, as well as Yamato Takeru, who has his 20k and one lock-on once the buffs come in NA. But talking about Siegfried, no damage wall, no warp, very good monster in my opinion, but he's really good for Izanagi, just for like sustained DPS. Some people might want to, I think, like, if you're really good at Izanagi, then Izanami is a better pick for Siegfried. But for people that are not comfortable with hitting damage walls, then Siegfried is not a bad monster to have, especially with his one-way laser that doesn't have attribute weakness or advantages over the 3 mini bosses. Izanami's gonna get hard when you hit Yamato Takeru, which is where you kind of want to strike shot there. So if you're not comfortable with Izanagi, then Siegfried's not a bad choice as a main DPS source, because he is a better DPS source than like Eclipse or like Aladdin. Well, maybe not Aladdin, but still good. But like I said in the video, in my commentary video, one-way lasers are not that good anymore because of lock-ons, as well as just one-way lasers are just harder to position with a lot of mobs around, and wasting a turn just to position is not that favorable for some monsters, for some players. So hopefully he gets some kind of buff later, but chances are no, and future is not that great either. But that's pretty much for the Hatcher monsters. In terms of, I'm going to talk more about the dungeons of the extreme monsters. For Marie Antoinette, the main gimmicks are no gravity barrier and mines. So gravity barrier and mines, and she is relatively easy. If you want a max lucker, then she's not a bad monster to max luck. She has a no gravity barrier and a Fiend Slayer, and she helps you beat Surtur if you're having trouble with him. She's a fine pick for Surtur, but not as easy as Queen Butterfly in my opinion. It is a little bit harder. You can't really put like four max luck of random max luck into her dungeon and hope to beat it. You probably want to have 3 max and a Kushinada. I think Kushinada is the best monster for that dungeon, just because the last part you can pinch. Between the boss and the minions, and it will pretty much one shot. Once you get used to it, you'll probably know where the pinches are, and you have practice and stuff like that. So it's really good. So it's really easy, and Kushinada can just use her strike shot to just propel one of your allies to that match pinch shot, which is really good. And as for Nero mainly, I totally forgot. Oh yeah, no gravity bear and drones. There's a lot of drones in that dungeon. The best monster is a 5-star monster called Saotome Shuri. She's part of the Hattori Hanzo, Sasuke, and I forgot the last one. But that Kirigakure Saizo. So that series, the 4-star monster. She is a light monster. She's really good because of her no gravity barrier and drone breaker. The only one in my, I think that's why she's really good for Nero. That's basically her only use for that. For her, is that dungeon. She makes it a lot easy. So if you're having trouble and stuff like that, then she is not a bad pick, because because the drones do most of the damage for Nero, and of course they also hinder your DPS as well, because there are laser barriers and of course block you from where you really want to bounce. But Nero, even if you don't have Saotome Shuri, if you position well, then it's really good. It's really easy because there are a lot of ways that you can pinch. You can pinch between the walls and the monster and stuff like that, which is really easy. You can probably one-shot a bar if you pinch well or position well. And other monsters that are really good is Saigo Takamori, of course, Beethoven, Odo, because they have drone breaking strike shots. Max luck monster wise, I don't really remember that much, but probably like Queen Butterfly and stuff like that are just fine. Deathscore is really good, my bad. Deathscore is a really good monster just because he has high attack, and if you pinch well, then it will probably do really good as well. With his blast bump, can proc other monsters bump combos, so it's really good. But that's it for NA. In terms of my NA this week, I did roll the Legend series, and I got Agnamut X. Hopefully I'll use her in the future. I still need to max plus her, as well as max plus her. I did ascend her on the day that I actually got it, because both Typhoon and Astrolf were up at the same time. On the same day, actually, not the same time. On the same day, so I got her ascended very easily. And yeah, that's pretty much it for my NA experience there. I didn't really do much fruit Ableberry farming or any plus farming my right now, so hopefully I'm just waiting for 4.0 to actually do some legit berry farming and stuff like that, as well as JP's taking a lot of my time because of the new like Impossible dungeon and other stuff as well. So that's basically it for the NA scene. After this BGM break, we will go to JP, where we have a lot of news. So hope you guys stay put. And we're back to this podcast, and this time it is the JP scene where there were a lot of news, a lot of excitement for future as well as current hard impossible dungeon. But first, starting off is the final part of the Genpei series. They finally announced Minamoto Yoshitsune. Why did I say Taira Atsumori? I don't even remember. But Taira Atsumori, the dark 5-star monster. So he does have two versions. So the evolved version is a Paladin Slayer as well as a no warp monster, and the Ascend is a dark light Slayer and a no damage wall. So in my opinion, the evolved version is more geared to only impossible dungeon. So he is very good for Daikokuten, which is a new light impossible dungeon, because he is a Slayer for it and it does deal with one gimmick. And he's also good for Louis the 13th. She is an extreme dungeon monster, but she's a very good monster to max luck, in my opinion. And she does have nice artwork, and a lot of people just like her for the art because she's cute and stuff like that. But one of the better, he is the second Paladin Slayer after Gigas Khan. But not Taira Atsumori. Why do I keep on saying Taira Atsumori? But Minamoto Yoshitsune is a very strong monster with the rebounding laser as well. So a really good strong DPS source. Now for the Ascend version, he is Light Slayer and no damage wall. Very good for extreme quests like Fenrir. I know there's a lot of them, but there's not much dungeons for him for impossible. He might be okay for Izanagi, but I really care more about no warp instead of no damage wall, because the damage wall doesn't do much in terms of damage. Only does 1k, and if you don't have a no warp monster, then it really gets hard to actually deal damage towards Izanagi and all the other mini bosses. So he does have good extreme potential, kind of like Megamori Chio and Belphegor, that they have good potential. They have good dungeons for them in the extreme level, but none on the impossible level. So that's kind of how he sits in the Ascend version. But evolved version, it really depends on what you want, because evolved version is good for Daikokuten and Louis the 13th, whereas the Ascend version is good for Fenrir. Key's okay. I keep on forgetting a lot of them, but it really depends on you. But that's and then the hatcher is going to be light and dark harmony, and that's where you can get Harley X, or if Harley X and Cleopatra, which are really good at dark monsters. Light monsters, Citron Gold. Cleopatra is light. Why did I keep? You can get Cleopatra and Harley X in terms of light and dark, and then Citron Gold for light, and then Harley X for dark. Joan of Arc is also dark, so if you want some light and dark monsters and you kind of want Minamoto Yoshitsune, then not a bad hatcher to actually roll. Now, next one is of course the new impossible dungeon, Daikokuten. In my opinion, the difficulty level is around the same as Ashura. It's really hard when you start playing it in the beginning, but once you get used to it, it gets a lot easier. If you know the ins and outs of the dungeon, it gets really, really easy. But in my opinion, that dungeon is still the third hardest outside of Yamato Takeru and Bishamonten, and then Ashura is on the number 4. Number 5 is either Izanagi, and then number 6 is Marishten. 7 is Tsukuyomi. 7, 8 is Izanami and Tsukuyomi, and then number 9 is Kushinada in terms of difficulty, in my opinion. So Daikokuten is really, really hard, and there are not that many good monsters. There are some that are really recent, just like Benke, who, just because he has high HP and a very strong strike shot, a lot of monsters that are really good for the dungeon have low HP, kind of like Yamato Takeru, where like Merlin, Mustang, Kushinada, and Hunter King have really low HP but are really, really good for that dungeon. So in terms of Daikokuten, you have Low Lady, Zhangfei, Kushinada, Manishten, Tsukuyomi. They all have really low HP. So Benkei is kind of like the Odo of that dungeon of Daikokuten. There are some other ones that are really off picks, kind of like Lucifer. Some people bring Lucifer in there, but it doesn't. I don't think it's really good in terms of Lucifer. Lucifer is not that good, but it's survivable in my opinion. As long as you get Lucifer to the boss stages, it gets really easy. In my opinion, it really depends on the team comp, because some teams have difficulty on the mini boss stage, but it's very easy on the boss stage, whereas some gets hard on the boss stage, but gets easy on the mini boss stage. So the team that I used was 2 Manishitens, a Kushinada, and a Low Lady. In terms of whether it's more geared to the mini boss stage, but it kind of falls off on the boss stage. That's why Kushinada is kind of there just to help out. And Manishiten really depends on positioning for the strike shot. So good thing I had a good position for that strike shot just to get 1 million off of that. Last bar. I think it was the last bar where I used it. But in terms of the monster itself, very powerful. I think that Daikokuten is probably top 2 in terms of impossible monsters. Kind of beats out Izanami just because he has 2 null abilities. His strike shot is more powerful than Izanami, and his bump is kind of the same in terms of mob clearing DPS. Not really good for boss damage. Boss damage. That's where kind of Izanami one-ups him, but very good in terms of overall usage. And the no warp and no damage wall is very good. No abilities. And strike shot can wipe out gravity barriers, damage walls, and mines. So I did put out a lot of videos of using Daikokuten. I hope you guys can catch them all and see their uses and see their struggles as well. But a very strong monster. But whether they're better than Kushinada is kind of up for debate, because they're kind of different in my opinion. So in terms of Kushinada, Kushinada is more geared to DPS onto the boss. It's more like you build a team around Kushinada, whereas Daikokuten, you build a team where Daikokuten is the support or the main filler or the top filler of that team. So Kushinada is more of a carry role, whereas Daikokuten is more of a support role, but it also does do some damage from that support role as well. So it's kind of different in terms of the different roles of the 2 monsters. So that's why I can't really say this one's 100% better. So that's pretty much it. And speaking of Kushinada, there has been some news that there has been a plasma bug after 4.3. So I kind of want to shine some light on it, because the reason of the bug is what Mixie said is that the plasma is activated, the damage portion is activated at times when it's not supposed to. That's what they say. So what times where there's not supposed to is when you're into a warp where either Kushina enters a warp with the plasma chain on, or where a monster that's linked to Kushinada goes into a warp. When they're into the warp right now, the bug is that it activates while they're inside the warp, and it doesn't. And how do you say it? So when you go inside the warp, the plasma damage still activates while they're still in the warp doing that effect, whereas that's not what they're supposed to do. Where it originally has to, once they get out, the plasma starts going, so you do more damage. So you technically do more damage with that plasma right now. So that's why a lot of people really hate Mixie right now, because of the bug. And another reason why is because that version of the bug right now is what came with Kushinada when she first came out into Japan. I'm not sure if it's still in. I'm pretty sure that it's not on NA in the NA version. So that's a little that was fixed. So, and if you're wondering about Lucifer, the evolved version of Lucifer also has plasma, but that was nerfed before Lucifer ever came, so that was no problem in terms of law of the of nerfing monsters, of hatcher monsters and stuff like that. There was no problem with that. So technically, it got stronger, but now they're gonna buff it down. I mean, not buff it down, nerf it later on in June. So you do have a few weeks to play around with it, but I think that's the information about the bug, where when you go into the warp with the chain on, it deals damage while you're inside the warp, and then it just keeps going. Whereas it's supposed to, when you're in the warp, it stops, the damage stops, and then once you go out, it starts again. So that was a little information. It's kind of like a knowledge buff, and see how it kind of changed Monster Strike, because that's why Kushina kind of fell off a bit when her plasma got debuffed, when the plasma got nerfed. So yeah, that was really nice. That was a really random bug, but they're gonna fix it, and fix it, quotation marks, or not, or just nerf it. So there are a lot of other news right now. First up is, of course, there are buffs, like real buffs to current monsters out there. So first up is Ableberry additions. Zeus, Roma, Ordo, Alice, and Napoleon are all going to get Ableberry slots. And of course, there are a lot more monsters after that haven't been announced yet. They will all come on the June 17th maintenance, after that maintenance. And then there are other monsters that actually gets real buffs. So like Susano gets a one-way laser EL instead of the spread shot. Not spread shot, the EX laser. Ascended Mozart gets a no warp. Ra turns into a homing pierce destruction, kind of like Low Lady, but since Ra is not a blast type, it's probably the power of it gets lowered down. It's lower than Low Lady's. And then who else is there? There's a lot more. And the ones that they announced, there was only 5 that they announced, but there's more to come after the 17 maintenance. So hopefully in the beginning of the week, they will release all of them, because the last time they did a major buff was there were like 20 to 30 monsters that got buffed. Well, 20 to 30 versions. So like kind of like 15 actual monsters that got buffed. So hoping that some monsters will get be more relevant, kind of like Valkyrie. Valkyrie was the biggest one in my opinion. Valkyrie or Hemlin were the biggest ones, where Valkyrie gets a no warp and kind of puts her on tier of the other no damage one no warp monsters like Eclipse and Aladdin stuff. And of course her strike shot got buffed as well, so it kind of hits for 1 million instead of like 600 to 700k, if I remember correctly. So hopefully a lot more past monsters get be more relevant in the future, and I'll be putting a blog post once all the information comes out, and I'll tell you about my thoughts about them. Tell you my thoughts about their uses after the buff and stuff like that. So be sure to look forward to that, as well as this week there is going to be a Nico Nico television stream where Max Murai is going to be playing against a new event batch called Starlight. Starlight is a Dark Descent, and the new batch of monsters will be all events and no hatcher monsters. So there's going to be 2, one's wood, one's dark. The dark one, Starlight, I don't really know the actual specifics, the stats of them, but she is a cute monster. She is pretty cute, so hopefully I can grab one and maybe max luck depending on the difficulty of the dungeon or something, because I kind of want to max luck her. And then during that stream there will also be announcing a new Ascension monster of a past monster. Now which way they're going to go I'm not sure, but which monster that they're going to announce I'm not sure, but probably in terms of timeline, probably at the end of June they're going to release it. They're going to announce it this Friday, and then probably going to be released at the end of June. But just like Harley X and Harley, hopefully they'll be bringing something really pretty much buffing some of the past monsters. So in terms of people that JP, the most popular one that wants to get ascended is Arthur. Next one is going to be Alice, and then you get the Oda Nobunaga and Oda Nobunaga X for the for the third spot. And some people don't want Mustang to get ascended because of the tragedy of independence. Apollo and Apollo X were not really talked about. And then Vodka or Shampoo is pretty much a troll. It's probably just like for trolls out there. They just say it out just for trolls, just for trolling. So there's that. But in terms of my JP account, I recently got 200 days total current login days, and I got 10 orbs. I rolled twice, and I got a Cinderella, which I'm pretty happy. But another fire monster. I'm getting a lot of fire monsters lately. Most of my boxes from both NA and JP have like a lot of fire monsters. I do have 2 Sanada Yukimuras on both of my accounts. I have Roma in JP. I have Gilgamesh on JP as well. And NA, I have Apollo, Nono, Shampoo, 2 Sanada Yukimuras, and some other monsters that and I got Aghanim X recently as well. So kind of a fire week for me, and I'll hopefully be showing my box soon, but I kind of want to leave it up when I hit 500 subscribers, but probably it won't be there soon until like another month. And a lot of people have been asking me to show my box to you guys, to them, so hopefully I'll do that soon, probably this week. But recently I've been really busy, that's why this podcast is getting a little shorter, and that I've been like speed running a lot of the news and stuff like that. But hopefully I'll get to showing my box soon. I have a lot of videos stalled up, queued up onto my computer, just trying to uploading them and stuff like that. But making videos is kind of hard, just because recording doesn't take that much, because it's just doing like a 10-minute run of a dungeon. But like the actual editing part, like just doing the information stuff, does take at least twice as long as actually recording the video. So bear with me. I'll try to put up 1 or 2 videos per day, but I might just leave one day kind of blank and then have like 3 or 4 out on the next day. So hopefully you guys will keep watching and stuff like that. But that's it for me. I know that this podcast is short. I've been busy, like I said. So hopefully next week I'll elaborate more on my thoughts, just because I kind of sped through them and then didn't really talk about much. That's because I kind of like talked a lot about the Epic Hero series onto my commentary video. There's like a 20-minute video. That's a 20-minute video. So kind of put this podcast together with that video, then it's going to be an hour long. So I don't want to take that much time off you, but if you guys want longer ones, and I'll keep on elaborating or just like BSing a lot of my thoughts. But hopefully you find this useful and find this informative. But that's it for me. I hope you guys like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week on another Monster Strike podcast.